Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon for those of you who are in other time zones. Welcome to today's webinar, Resources Available through the Montana Workforce Services Division. We will go ahead and get started right away. It does look like the signing in has slowed down, and I apologize, but because it's summertime, there are people doing lawn work right outside of the window, and I've done everything I can to try and cut back on the background noise. But if you hear buzzing and humming, it's a lawnmower or a weed eater, and I do apologize for that. Hopefully they are just about finished. So again, welcome everyone. My name is Kim Brown, and I am with the Montana Pre-ETS Technical Assistance Center. I will be your moderator for today. And this webinar is sponsored by the Montana Pre-Employment Transition Services Technical Assistance Center. It is funded in whole or in part under a contract with the Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services. The statements shared in the presentation do not necessarily reflect the opinion of the department. All attendees are currently muted. This helps to cut down on the background noise. If you want to ask one of the presenters a question or make a comment, please type your question or comment into the chat box. And only you, the moderator, which is myself, and the presenters will be able to see what you've typed into the chat box. So I will read your questions out loud when it's time for questions and answers, and that way everyone can know what your question was and the presenter will be able to answer it. We will have several question and answer periods during today's webinar, but do feel free to type your question into the chat box at any time, and I will read those when the presenters are ready to accept questions. If you don't see the chat box on your screen, look to the upper right-hand area of the screen and you should see an orange box with a white arrow in it. If you click on that box, it will expand a dashboard area for you, and you should see the chat box in there, and you should also see a section called Handouts. This is where we have the PowerPoint in both PowerPoint and PDF formats in case you're interested in downloading the slides or in printing them off to take notes. For those of you who requested Montana Office of Public Instruction renewal units when you registered, those will be emailed to you after the webinar, and it can take up to a couple of weeks to get those mailed out. Please note that you do have to have pre-registered and requested the OPI credit in order to receive it, and unfortunately we're currently unable to issue other kinds of attendance documentation. Today's session is being audio taped for the Pre-ETS Resource Library, and the recording for the webinar will be posted to the Montana Vocational Rehabilitation and Blind Services YouTube channel. I've posted the URL or the website address for that YouTube channel in the chat box, so if you want to take a look at that and write it down, you will be able to access that archive usually within 2 weeks of the actual session. Again, the slides for today's session are already posted in the handouts area of your dashboard box. When you sign out of today's webinar, a survey link should pop up. It's quite short, I think about 8 questions, and we do ask that you please take time to fill out that survey. We go through all of the responses that we receive, and we use those to try and continually improve the trainings that we're offering. We also use those to learn what kinds of topics you think are important for future webinars. So again, please do take the time to complete that survey when we send it out. We're very fortunate today to have with us 7 guest speakers from the Job Services Operations Bureau, and each of those speakers will be introducing themselves as it's their turn to present. But we're very, very grateful that they took time out of their day to come and share information about the Job Service Operations Bureau and the different services and programs that they offer today. I'd like to start with just a little bit of background information about the Pre-ETS Technical Assistance Center, and then I will turn it over to our guest presenters. So the Pre-Employment Transition Services Technical Assistance Center is through a contract that's funded by Montana Vocational Rehabilitation and Blind Services. And the purpose of this contract and the purpose of the Pre-ETS Technical Assistance Center is to support Montana VRBS and school staff in order to provide quality pre-employment transition services to students with disabilities. And so we're trying to do that in lots of different ways, including these webinars, where we are trying to share what kinds of resources are available around the state so that both VR professionals and school professionals can see how there are different places where they might be able to tap into services and programs that will help students with disabilities prepare for transition and then have seamless transitions into their adult lives. Part of what the Technical Assistance Center tries to do is research and share innovative ideas, and we're always looking for great stories of things that we can showcase around the state. So if you know of some exciting transition work that's being done around Montana, please let us know. We also provide technical assistance to regions, to specific communities, to the state as a whole. And we try to help forge collaborations that are focusing on competitive integrated employment, which is the ultimate goal of the pre-employment transition services. So again, part of why or the main reason why we are having this webinar today is to try and familiarize folks in Montana with what kinds of services are available in the state and how to tap into those services. And one of the big partners in the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act is workforce and job service. And so we are really pleased, as I said, to have Job Service Operations Bureau speakers with us today so that we can find out what kinds of programs and services are available. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the screen and the presentation over to Job Service. Let me just switch over here real quickly to Tanner.
All right, looks like we got it, Kim. I'll go to show my screen and pull that up. And
arrow.
all right, perfect. Kim, can you see the screen?
Yes, I can. Sorry, I had myself muted. If you just want to go ahead and do the slideshow, should be good to go.
Right up top in the middle. There we go.
From the beginning. How's that? Okay. We'll go around and introduce ourselves real quick. There's 5 of us currently here. We had one individual that wasn't able to make it, and I could cover that section, but we'll get to that. Or I guess all of us could cover it. We may have a couple different people speak on it. I'll start off introduction. My name is Tanner Woodward. Welcome. Thank you for having us. I'm the manager of the Job Service Operations Programs here under the Department of Labor and Industries, the Workforce Services Division.
Hello, my name is Marla DeSello. I'm the Job Service Operations Bureau. I'm the Program Manager for Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, also known as WIOA, and also I work with the contracts for Department of Public Health and Human Services with the work program.
Good morning. My name is Christy Robbins. I'm the state coordinator for the Work Opportunity Tax Credit Program, or also known as the WOTC tax credit.
Good morning. My name is Rhonda Hughesby. I'm the Bureau Chief for Job Service Operations Bureau.
Hi, I'm Kate Strayer, and I'm the Program Manager for a Business Services program and for the State Bonding Program.
And we'll get started. If we're all in a conference room, we all have paper. We'll try to be our best at shuffling stuff around. If you guys aren't able to hear or there's distractions, just let us know and we could do a little bit better job. But we do a handful of conferences in this conference room. The noise is pretty minimal. Our speakers work fairly well, so you shouldn't have any issues hearing us. But we'll go ahead and get started.
This is Rhonda speaking. I don't want to read the slides to you. Workforce Services Division is the division that houses the Job Service Operations Bureau. We are one of 4 bureaus within that division, and then Workforce Services Division is one of 5 divisions within the Department of Labor and Industry. Our focus in Job Service Operations Bureau is developing and maintaining a high-quality workforce system for Montana. Just to touch real briefly on our core values, they're listed here. They're a big part of what guides our decisions and how we operate, how we provide services around the state, and all the way down to the level of what our employees are actually evaluated on in their performance appraisals, behavior-wise. So we really do try to tie everything back to these five values. We have 23 job service offices around the state. As you can imagine, they all look a little different. They all function a little different. There are core things that we do in every single location, and then each office has flexibility to really address the needs and partner in their communities in a way that makes the most sense. Besides the 23 offices around the state, we have 2 standalone work offices. We operate the work readiness component, which is part of TANA for DPHHS. The work program is in 13 counties in eastern Montana, and then also in a separate office in Missoula, separate from the job service. An office in the Great Falls Job Service, the work program is operated out of. So we have quite a presence with that around the state also. We are divided up into 3 regions. You can just see them there in different colors. Central office, as you can imagine, coordinates with agency partners, with federal partners, is involved in things like making sure that we answer our federal reports, all of those kind of things. And then, of course, providing direction and support to the local offices around the state. Local offices, we like to say where the real work happens. We have 3 regional directors, one obviously for each region, 18 office managers and their management teams in the 23 sites across Montana. We've been known for a long time as the people who match up job seekers and and employers, and we're really trying to focus on a lot more than that. We've always done a lot more than that. That's what we've been known for. Going forward, we really are a bigger part of workforce development in each of these offices. Our local office folks work with business. They work with education all the way from K-12 to beyond. Service providers that many of you are familiar with, economic development. We've recently changed the names of the titles of our workers in the front line to be workforce consultants instead of employment specialists or case managers, because we really are focusing on workforce development in a bigger way. One of our main goals is to reach out and engage the hard to serve. As the economy changes, our focus changes, and right now with unemployment being what it is, we're finding that the people who come to our offices really have additional barriers, are harder to serve, and so we have been ramping up a lot of efforts to help these folks, and that can be anything from people lacking basic computer skills all the way to the more traditional things that we think of when we talk about barriers. So We're going to talk specifically about what some of those are, and I will turn it over to Marla.
Hello again. I work with the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Program, which would be the adult program, our dislocated worker, rapid response, and dislocated worker. Go ahead and change the slide if you would, please. Get the rest off. With the adult program, this is operated by all of our job services except for one office, which is our Lewistown area. We also have, there's non-state providers, and we partner with them to help get services out there to potential or to participants. This program is available to individuals who are 18 or older and that are at low levels of self-sufficiency. Their eligibility criteria is they either need to be a recipient of public assistance or they meet our low income requirements. The program is here to help individuals get to a higher efficiency of supporting themselves by obtaining and retaining employment. And the services we provide can range from your basic career services such as job search, placement assistance, and individualized career services such as training. And we also follow up with those individuals for 12 months to make sure we're able to help them retain their employment, or if they need a job change, help them get those skills or assistance to find themselves employment. Their needs are determined through assessments and our case managers working with them. And rather than read the rest to you, those slides will be available. So that's all I have on adult. If you change to dislocated, thank you. Okay, I have a bad habit. The Dislocated Worker Program is operated statewide by all job service offices, all 23 locations. This program is available to laid off or terminated workers that are eligible for unemployment insurance, or if they have been self-employed and are no longer self-employed due to economic conditions, or they meet the definition of our displaced homemaker. The purpose of this program is to help those laid off individuals to transition from the layoff to employment in as least amount of time as possible. The services that we provide, again, are similar or same to those of the adult with the basic career and individualized career services. That's all I have. Our rapid response program is also operated statewide by the local job services. This program comes from a portion of the funding by our dislocated worker, and it's available to assist workers who are facing a layoff to, again, help them find reemployment as soon as possible. We will go on site if there's employers that are having layoffs or there's a mass layoff, we'll go to that employer, let them know of services that job services have available, and we also bring in our partners such as we'll bring in OPA, unemployment insurance, a financial specialist from the community, and other people that can let them know of resources that are available to them that they might not be aware of since they haven't been unemployed before. And we let them know of that, and then we let them know of the programs we all can provide and that we're there to answer any questions and provide them assistance. Then this one's a hard one to say because they just changed the name of it. It's been known as National Emergency Grant, but now it's being called the National Dislocated Worker Grant. This grant is, again, the services provided are the same as those with dislocated worker, but these grants are discretionary grants and are generally provided as a 2-year grant and can also be specific to regions or types of workers. An example of a grant we had a few years ago was in the Flathead area, Kalispell area, when the timber industry started to slow down. We got energy to help businesses that were impacted by the layoffs in that industry slowing down. And the work readiness component program, we operate out of our Missoula Palmer office, our Great Falls Job Service, and our Wolf Point office pretty much covers most of eastern Montana, Richland, Roosevelt County, all those areas. They're in Miles City, Lane Deer, and they're throughout that part of the state. And these programs help individuals receiving TANF cash assistance, and it's to help them transition into the workforce and obtain employment. This program will be ending, and we're only operating until December 31st because a new program will be coming out called Pathways. The Trade Adjustment Assistance, or TAA program, it is an entitlement program provided by all of our job service offices. This program works with individuals who are unemployed due to increased imports or shifts in production to foreign countries. This program works with participants to help them gain employment. Services provided through this program are training, transportation, or subsistence for out-area training, and job search relocation allowance, and also provides wage subsidy. This program is if a business, I'm going to go way back in time, such as we had Dana Industries in Bozeman that developed backpacks. They turned over the manufacturing of those backpacks to a foreign country, so they were eligible for a TAA petition, and we were able to provide services to those people. But you have to have at least 3 workers petition for this grant, and then once it's approved, then they're TAA eligible, which provides a 2 years of service to them. That's it. Okay, the state dislocated worker program is similar to our dislocated worker program. It's just the people eligible for it are state employees that are laid off from their job with the state due to a reduction in force, and we try to get them hired on to new employment. Just like to add, with all of the programs we have available that I went over for WIOA, we do our best to co-enroll because individuals can be eligible for more than one program, which then gives us the opportunity to leverage funds to provide more services to individuals. And that's all I had on that.
So we do have
Great.
that have come in. Do you want to take those before the next presenter?
Yeah, was there questions?
There were a couple that were emailed in to me.
Oh, okay, yeah. Why don't you go ahead and read those, and we'll...
Okay. The first question is, when you talked about the WIOA adult programs that you offer, and there are apparently youth programs as well, can the youth and adult programs through your agency co-enroll with vocational rehabilitation? And if so, what might that look like?
I'm sorry.
We don't have a formal co-enrollment process with Voc Rehab, but we very often serve the same customers, and in that instance we would just work together and collaborate on how to best serve that individual. We do co-enroll with the eligibility for the adult program and the youth program overlap as far as ages, so we do co-enroll adult with some of the WIOA youth providers around the state. So we often have participants in common with youth providers. Does that answer the question, I hope?
That does, thank you, and that leads into the second question, which was the age for the adult programs you stated was 18 and older. What are the ages for the WIOA youth program?
Job Service doesn't operate any of the youth programs, so this is just not official. I'm not positive. I believe it's 14 to 21, and they've changed the high end of that number has changed a couple times. When we got ARRA dollars, it changed, and but I believe it's 21. So we've got the 18, 19, 20, and 21-year-olds as possible co-enrollment.
Okay, thank you. And then there was just one other question. If somebody wanted to access the adult programs that were described in their community, how would they go about doing that? Would it be through the Job Service?
I can send you the link that could be forwarded on that has the list of providers, because for instance in Lewistown where Job Service isn't a provider, it's a non-state provider, but most areas the Job Service can help, but I'll definitely send the link that lists out who all the providers are and the phone and email contact information for them.
Excellent, thank you so much. And those are all the questions that have come in so far. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you. We'll carry on. Business services.
All right, this is Kay again, and going over business services and a little bit about the bonding program. So we operate the business services program in all of our job service offices, and our goal is to provide effective services to businesses by meeting their workforce needs. We act as kind of as human resource support is part of the business services, and so when I go through this, a lot of this probably won't apply to you, at least your interest, but I did want to let you know that we can serve you in the same way that we're serving the businesses with a lot of these human resource options, and so do think about that. I mean, we're happy to help you with mini job fairs or interview facilities or any of the things that we do for businesses. We do that for nonprofits as well. So, and also I'll just kind of focus too on what might be of interest to you for your youth. So we do a lot with recruitment and retention services for businesses, including posting and helping them fill job orders, helping them write their job orders so that they're effective and they are getting the applicants that they want. We've got comprehensive testing through the Prove It testing software in our offices. That's something that your youth could take advantage of. There's typing tests, there's like 800 tests, I believe, in that. So if they wanted to get a baseline on where they were with certain skills, they can use that. That's no cost to individuals, job seekers taking those tests. Also, we have in our offices job fairs. We help sponsor them. We've got mini job fairs sometimes, which is just for a single employer that's looking for a bunch of workers, or new businesses coming to town that are looking for workers. And then we have the larger scale job fairs. If you're interested in sending any of your clients to those, a good place to keep track of them is on the job service website homepages. We do help with, we've got interview facilities. If your youth are applying for jobs, sometimes they'll go to the job service offices as they can use our facility. The employers can use our facilities. We also help with layoff aversion and rapid response services. Marla mentioned that. We have staff in most of our offices that are have some expertise with employment laws and at least minimal expertise and a knowledge of resources. Yes. for employment law resources as well, and you're welcome to take advantage of that. Right now, we're in the process of making sure that businesses know that as of August 1st, the U.S. Department of Labor changed some of the required labor law posters, and so we're getting those out to businesses, and that's something that you could take advantage of. It's no cost to businesses. We also do, we have staff that do training, employment law training on various things, wage and hour laws, the human rights laws, so that's available to you as well. Our expertise, as far as employment laws, one of the things I was thinking was our staff will have brochures to distribute to you on child labor laws, drug testing laws, things like that that might affect your youth as they're looking for work. We do customized labor market information and workforce information for businesses, and also our business services staff are helping businesses to know about the state and federal tax credits and incentives available. And one of those is the federal bonding program. I work with that program, and if you're not aware of that, we work with businesses that they have to have offered somebody a job or have somebody working for them, and if there's some fear that it mainly just covers theft and embezzlement. So any loss that way is covered. We have $5,000 bonds and can stack them higher than that in $5,000 increments. The federal bonding program is really looking at and wanting to bond more youth. You know, if employers have any concern that by hiring somebody they could lose money, it covers the employer 100% up to the bond, you know, what the bond was established for. So that's something to think about too. And if you're interested in that or have a situation where maybe that would be the incentive for an employer to give one of your clients a chance, just give me a call and I can help set that up. It's really easy. There's no cost to the businesses to do that. And then as far as we also help employers know about the work-based learning options. Probably the apprenticeship would be the one that would be of most interest and a possibility for your staff. The apprenticeship program has got a great website that would be, you know, something that for you to check out and be able to refer your clients to. And then, you know, we just have a lot of resources for entrepreneurs and businesses. We help them with occupational planning, business planning. We have a lot of resources too for businesses, and those are things too that might be of benefit to you. In some cases, we have our attorneys work with us on an annual basis to update a model employee handbook. They have a background check that they update annually that might be helpful to you or helpful for your staff to know what businesses are using out there. Also, we've got a legal application and interview guide that we provide both businesses and job seekers, and that might be something to use to help educate your clients so that they know what can and cannot be asked of them on applications and in interviews, because you know, to protect their identity and make sure they're not disclosing more information than they need to. I think the rest of it probably doesn't apply to you all. So anyway, that's all I have with business services.
Any questions?
The first, and you kind of touched on this, I think, when you talked about the services available to entrepreneurs, would the resources that you described help novice entrepreneurs like young people, like students who might be thinking about starting their own business? And it sounds like from what you said, those same resources that you described would be available to youth. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. We actually, it's probably been like 10 years ago now, we had a person that was 18 years old, and he bought a couple of Baskin-Robbins in the state, and we worked extensively with him, and he's a very successful business owner at this point. So yeah, we're happy to work with youth as well.
Great. Okay. And then, do you do training and provide expertise regarding the Americans with Disability Act and employment?
We provide some training. We've got some videos that we use to some extent, but usually we try to call in some of the experts in the state to help with that. So we don't have anything, in some of the offices, we've got people that are really experts and they've got their human resource certifications, and so they can provide that training. So it really, it's mainly the larger cities, I think, that have staff that are really well qualified to do some training on that.
Great, thank you. And the next one is, and the final one, it's not a question, it's just a comment. It's from someone who has to leave the webinar early, but wants to thank all of the presenters so far for the awesome information, and was asking about the recording of today's session. So just a reminder to everyone that the webinar is being recorded and will be posted to the Montana Vocational Rehabilitation and Blind Services YouTube channel. And the URL or website address for that YouTube channel is in your chat box. So if you don't see it, click on the orange box with a white arrow in it. That should open up the dashboard and the chat box with the URL in there. And those are all the questions for now, so I'll turn it back over to you. Thanks.
This is Rhonda. I just wanted to add one thing to something that Kay said with regard to the question about whether we have staff in local offices working. What was the question with
providing ADA training?
Yeah, the ADA training. This isn't really the same thing, but we have been invited by Voc Rehab to have some of our staff trained in November. It's windmills training, and it's how to work with businesses who have questions about hiring individuals with disabilities. So as of November, we will be moving more into that realm too, just to add some detail.
I'll leave that on there for a second. That's Kay's information if you wanted to jot it down, or you'll have this to go back to this PowerPoint.
And I'll just add on to the training too. If our staff can't provide training, or even if they can, they're a great resource for knowing who could provide the training, because you know it's available in most communities. Okay, I guess I'm up next too with our workforce consultants, and as Rhonda mentioned, that is the terminology we use for, or the title that we use for our staff that are working with job seekers, and they work with businesses as well in our job service offices. And the number one focus of the consultants is to make that connection between employers and job seekers, and trying to help bridge the gap for businesses to help find them the best employees for the jobs that they're looking at. Some of the things that we offer job seekers is we help them with job search assistance and provide them with job referrals. We provide employment counseling, job development. Of course, we work with anyone who's on unemployment insurance that's looking for work. We connect them. We're pretty knowledgeable about partner agencies too, where we can refer them to other agencies that might be able to provide them with additional services. We've got resume and application assistance. In some offices, there are classes to work with resumes. We've got our staff have been trained to be able to review applications and resumes and provide feedback to job seekers on how they can more effectively market themselves. We also provide them with interview skills. We even in some offices, I think in most offices, they offer mock interview opportunities where the job seeker can come in and go through a mock interview with 2 or 3 of our staff. And sometimes people will come in even 3 or 4 times and do that if they're just not comfortable with that interview process. And it's been, I think it's a really effective thing for job seekers if they're struggling with that interview part. Also career development, we've got Montana Career Information System. Some of you may be familiar with that program. That is something that's available to your clients as well. And then, you know, so that your staff doesn't have to spend money on, you know, printing out resumes, faxing resumes, that's something that we offer. Also public phones, and then I mentioned the Prove It testing as well, that it's got the 800 tests where people can come in and see how they do on data entry or customer service or typing, any number of things. So that's it on the job seeker side. And Maggie's actually the program manager for that. She just couldn't be here today, so that's her contact information there on the screen.
We did have one question about these services. If a school or if a vocational rehabilitation counselor is working with an individual who might benefit from some of these services, how would they refer the person over, or would the individual themselves go into job service to get help?
They could, either way would be fine. I mean, you could call on their behalf and set up an appointment with a workforce consultant, or they could just go in and do that. If they want, I think, extensive help, I think it would be good to call and make an appointment, just because you never know what's going on in the office and how many people are there that day. And if they got job fairs, or, you know, they're out in the community, that, you know, sometimes it can be a little bit short-staffed.
Okay, great, thank you.
Guess I'm up. This is Christy Robbins. I'm the state coordinator for the Work Opportunity Tax Credit Program. This program, again, I'm going to try not to read off the screen because you can see it as well as I can. But this program originally was designed to get the economically disadvantaged or those individuals facing barriers back into the work environment while giving an employer a potential federal tax credit. There's a couple of things to keep in mind is that they have to meet one of the targeted groups, and just because the ones that are listed here, just because it may say ex-felon or food stamps or what have you, some of the categories are specific to the individual, other categories are not. So such as the TANF, where we're talking about the youth, that sort of thing, if there is a youth that is residing in the household of an individual that is receiving TANF, as long as they're listed as part of the household, they could still utilize this program to get the employer a federal tax credit for hiring them. There is also one other category that is kind of in conjunction with the designated community resident category that would also apply to youth. It's set to expire at the end of this year, but it's only a summer. It's called the Summer Youth Program, or Summer Youth Employee Program, but it's only if they're hired between May 1st and September 15th, and they have to be between the ages of at least 16, but not yet, or not 18. So there is that other category. It also is only in a designated area. Currently, the only area that Montana has for that is up in the Wolf Point area, so it would not, that category would not apply to any individuals that are other than that. The food stamp category is specific to an age. It's 18 to 39 years of age. So of course, if we're dealing with youth under the age of 18, that category would not apply. And some of the other categories just depends. If they've got voc rehab plans, or if they're on some type of other assistance, that may indeed apply to them. So the long-term unemployed recipient is a new category that they just came up with. It does not have an age attached to it. So there is a potential that a youth could qualify under that. All of these have specific qualifications under each one of them, and they're all different. So it just depends. Just because they're on food stamps and just because they're between 18 and 39 years of age does not mean that they automatically qualify. In that category, for instance, they have to have received 6 consecutive months of food stamps prior to going to work for the employer. So there are, like I said, very specific guidelines under each one of the categories that have to be met in order for them to qualify under that. Can you move to the next? Thanks. Now, in saying all of that, there are some disqualifying factors and stuff that you need to keep in mind. If the individual has worked for the company before, they are not eligible. Whether it was 2 months ago or 10 years ago, they do not qualify. It's for new employees only. Also, if indeed when you're submitting, there are 2 applications that will need to be submitted. Those applications must be postmarked within 28 days from the date that the person starts, or again, it becomes a denial. Once they are employed with the employer and they've submitted the application and they meet those criteria and they meet the target groups, they will be sent a certification in the mail if indeed they're certified. They still, even though they've got that certification, they have to stay at least 120 hours over the first year of employment. And again, that's calendar year, not tax year. They can work part-time, full-time, or seasonal as long as they meet at least that 120-hour requirement. Anything above that, it just, the credit varies depending on how many hours they work, how much they're paid, what target group they qualify under, and the what's it called? The credit, just like I said, just varies based on that. Could you move to the next slide, please? Sorry. Now, the forms that I was talking about, they require, it's an IRS 8850 form. These can all be downloaded by just inputting IRS 8850. Just make sure that you are pulling up the most recent revised forms. The other is an ETA 9061. Again, you can Google it, or I've put the website address at the bottom there for your convenience. Those forms and any additional forms that potentially need to be submitted are on that web page and can be downloaded and printed and sent. Again, the information has to be submitted within, the forms have to be submitted within the 28-day deadline to the Department of Labor, not the IRS. Once it comes to me, I will then determine eligibility and then let you know one way or another if the individual qualifies. Just to give you some history of what we're kind of dealing with here, it is a very large program. I have a lot of people that question on whether how big the program is. I receive approximately 1,000 applications a month, and I believe there's currently about 4,000 employers that we throughout the state that we're serving on and off. So yeah, bear with me when you're sending in the applications. So it takes a little time to get those decisions back out, but it is a good program. It does help the employer's bottom line, and it also gets these individuals back into the work environment and with some incentive for the employer to hire them. There is no guarantee. The employer would hire the individual, then the paperwork is submitted. So, and there just is no way of knowing whether or not they truly qualify until everything's looked at and until I've reviewed it all. The other thing that comes up is that the program used to occasionally only be renewed on a yearly basis. Currently, this is the first time in 13 years that I've been doing this that the program has been renewed for 5 years. And will be in effect until at least 2019, and then again it will be reviewed at that time. But if you have any questions or concerns, I'm always available, so please just give me a call and let me know, or drop me an email. I'm not sure if that I got that on. I don't think that my name and stuff is on there. Anyways, my number, just for those folks that are interested, you can either go out to the website, which has my name and address and all of the stuff that you need, like I said, or you can contact me at 9046, and my email address is crobbins, ROBBINS, @mt.gov. Thank you.
Christy, would you say real quick what the tax credit to Montana employers was last year, the total?
You know, it varies from year to year depending on the renewal of the program. I believe that from one year to another, it ranges. It usually levels out at about $7 million to employers in the state of Montana. And like I said, that varies from the small business side to the larger employers. There are a lot of employers that you will find that know about the program and are already utilizing it. But again, there are 33,000 employers in the state, I believe is kind of the number, and I've only got a quarter of them, so, or even not even a quarter of those individuals, or those companies. So there are several employers out there that aren't going to know about it and are going to question, you know, what they're filling out or what we're giving them. Also, these the information that's being provided, the target groups, that sort of things, these are not protected classes under the human rights law, so that's another big issue that comes up, is that you can't ask this type of information prior to employment, because the 8850, when you do pull that up, it does state that it needs to be filled out on or before the job is offered. So my suggestion is you give it to the employer when the individual is applying for the job and complete that form at that time, and then if indeed the individual is hired, then go ahead and complete the 9061. But if that ever comes up about questioning about the target groups or giving out information prior to employment, those are not protected classes under the human rights law, so you'd be fine.
All right, questions?
We do have a question. Do federal contractors qualify for the tax credit or other tax incentives?
Only if it's not federal or state. It would have to be private. If they're paying federal taxes, that's the only way that they would indeed qualify for it.
Okay, and then there were no other questions.
No, if it's a federal or state entity, no, they do not. Just because, yeah, it's not.
But if it's a if it's a business who has a federal contract, then would those employees be able to be able to take advantage?
Yeah,
right?
I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you were saying. Yes, they would be fine to take advantage. Some of them, and there are other companies that will contact me and ask me. I am not a tax preparer, and I don't claim to be. I don't do my own taxes, and it's for good reason. So I can get you so far on this stuff, and then we've been instructed that you need to contact your tax preparers. But the credits that are given out to the employers, there are sometimes that individuals will call and say, you know, well, we're an S corp or an LLC or what have you. There are different ways to take that credit for those companies, even though they may not be having the federal, they have the federal part. They take it on portions of their personal taxes, and then it can trickle down. But that is something that you indeed need to contact your accountant or bookkeeper on whether or not you can take it. My suggestion is that you go ahead and you send the applications in, regardless of if you think or don't think that the credit would apply to you, because if you wait and you go, oh, well, we didn't think it would apply because of this or that, it's going to be too late at that point. So you may as well go ahead and send the forms in, let me make the decision, and if indeed the person qualifies, then get a hold of the tax. You're going to hire, most of these individuals are going to hire, the employers are going to hire these individuals anyway. So go ahead and fill the paperwork out, send it in, I'll make the decision, and then if you can utilize it on your taxes, great. If not, then you're not out anything. But if you don't send it in, then you're going to be sadly mistaken, because there's no, they don't care whether it's 1 day late or 3 days late, or for what reason the paper was submitted late. It would be denied for a timeliness issue. Did that answer it?
Thank you.
And no other.
Kim, any other questions?
Nope, that was the only question, and I did want to mention that I put your email address and phone number, Christy, in the chat box for people who are interested in contacting you. Thanks.
Oh, great. Okay. Christy Robin is, if we have follow-up questions at the end of it, she has prior other obligations, so she's going to have to sneak out. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. And if there is other questions that we can't answer at the end of this meeting, we can get them emailed to her and she could respond in a timely fashion. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Next is going to be the help link. Help link is a work component of Senate Bill 405 that was passed in the last legislation, and that's the Health and Economic Livelihood Partnership Act. This provides insurance coverage by expanding Medicaid to adults ages 19 to 64 or below the 138% poverty line. The Help Link, which is a work component of that HELP Act, it's covered through the Montana Health Plan, and you have to be part of the Medicaid expansion at that time. I'll go into a little bit more of how you qualify for it here in a minute. So the participants who decide to enroll in the Help Link, this is an optional program. These individuals, even though they're in the Help Act, the Help Plan, they don't necessarily have to be enrolled in the Help Link process, that workforce component. This is optional for them. But if they do decide to go down that route of Help Link, this is what they kind of can expect. These participants, all of them that are eligible for the Help Act, will be sent a survey through the jobs.mt.gov, so they could sign in, and they're more welcome to take a survey, and this survey just helps get information on them, kind of tells them about what to expect, and then after the survey is done, they're asked to take an appointment or to make an appointment with the job service office, one of the local offices. Once that happens, they'd come in for an appointment. They'd work with a specialist within the office to go over any type of services. This could be a labor market information. They would sit down and review information within their community. This labor market information is great because if an individual is looking at eastern Montana and they're looking to move to eastern Montana and they're western Montana, it would show some of the potential jobs out there, what to expect, what's available, even within their community, because in Montana, it's a big state, everything is going to be different community-wise. Missoula is different than Butte, Missoula is different than Havre, so the labor market information is going to be great for them to identify what's in their community. Then they would look at developing an individual employment plan. This is an IEP. So what this is it's just a process that they would go through with a workforce consultant, an employee specialist at the local office, where they'd sit down and go through potential barriers where it may be keeping them from employment. So if it is maybe they don't know, or maybe their resume isn't up to speed, maybe they don't even have a resume, they don't know how to do a resume, they see some online but they don't know if that's the new trend or how to follow it. So we have workshops. So we would set up a time for that individual to come back to the local office to take the resume class. There's a lot of different examples within the employment plan, but it is just a way to help these individuals. Once that IEP is generated, you know, we'll follow up with these individuals to see where they're at. So again, if it is career coaching, career planning, skills assessments, we'll go over that with them. If they need to come back to go through these processes, we're more than happy to schedule another meeting with them. It's just not a one-time stop into our offices to give them basic orientation information and then send them on their way. This is a continual work process with them. The overall goal of the help link is kind of like the WIOA, where we were talking about to get a job or to better a job, to enroll in training, to increase those potential earnings, understand what jobs are in the high demand in local areas. A lot of these high demand areas aren't getting the employers aren't getting the right amount of employees. They can't bring in enough people. So once with that labor market information, we could show these folks that, hey, you know, there's a high demand for this, there's a high demand for that. Some of the IEPs that we look at and that we could partner with or even refer them to. Here's a handful of folks on this list here, and I won't go through all of them, but at least that way you have it and can see. But we do a lot of referring. Voc Rehab is a big one that we refer to. WIOA, WOA, all the veteran services, disability resources, community colleges, tribal colleges, four-year colleges, people in the community, domestic violence, housing, legal services. So what we need our individuals to do, they get enrolled in this HelpLink program, they have to have a minimum of one service every 90 days. That's just coming into our office to be able to receive a service. There's so many different services. I won't get into the depths of those or into the weeds of those, but they need to receive one every 90 days. So basically they'd have to get into our local office to continue working with us to be able to be eligible for the HelpLink program. Again, this was just a volunteer program. They don't necessarily have to take it, but it is an option for them to be able to come in and do these services. I'm going to go into the HelpLink Plus as well. Both, if you have questions on either or, I can take them at the end. The HelpLink Plus is kind of tailored to the HelpLink program. So the HelpLink Plus it's between the Department of Public Health and Human Services and the Department of Labor and Industries, kind of a pilot partnership. It started, I want to say January, March. Anyways, that's not important right now, but it's a partnership to utilize some TANF funding. That's the temporary assistance to needed family. So it follows kind of the guidelines of HelpLink, but we're a little bit flexible on what we can and can't do since it is just a contract between DLI and DPHHHS. So it can be up to over $1 million. And we could use this through June 30th of 2007. That's the contract time date. It's broken down individually between quarters of how much funding that we can use. Each quarter we get a certain amount. If we don't use that amount, it doesn't roll over. It's just basically next to onto the next quarter of funding. So yes, there is a hefty over $1 million amount that can be used towards this. But I don't foresee this program being able to use that unless we get an extension, because the first quarter we weren't able to get the funding out the door. We were in the process of getting it set up. So this funding, it's restricted to participant payments for training, supportive services, and on-the-job trainings, OJTs, or apprenticeship employment. So we can't use this for any staffing and administration costs, operations, or equipment costs. It goes to participants, which is great, and that's where it was hard for us on the first quarter. We're getting better at it to get it out to these participants that potentially need it. We do a lot of co-enrollment if they qualify for this program with WIOA, and we could tack on a lot more things with this program. There's 2 tiers with this. I don't have this in my slide. There's 2 tiers currently right now that they could qualify for. They're the Tier 1, which is a TAC program and registered apprenticeship, and the Tier 2, their other training programs. I'll go into a little bit more depth in here in a second. The Tier 1, you could have a potential of up to $12,000 awarded to one individual. That's a one-time deal. They can't be on the program, fall off of it, use that $12,000 for something, and then come back another 3 months later and then be awarded another $12,000 for it. It's just a one-time deal for the Tier 1 and Tier 2. Tier 2 would be a $6,000 amount. For the Tier 1, that's his TAC programs and apprenticeship. So these are available through registered apprenticeships within Montana. You could have a college enrollment or other training provided program in the occupations of pathways that are covered under the statewide TAC programs. So there's a couple different TAC programs that we currently have with the local colleges and the universities throughout Montana. And so if that school program, university has a TAC program, they are able to go through and utilize this HelpLink Plus funding. Again, it's a maximum of $12,000 in combined training, supportive services over the course of a 1 calendar year. Those qualifications, those TAC programs, qualifying manufacturing occupations, energy occupations, and then the healthcare. I don't have a list of all those colleges that are within the TAC program, but that could be something that could be provided. Again, it must be led to an industry recognized credential or license. This credential doesn't need to be completed in 1 year, but they must be enrolled with it and lead to that credential. Unfortunately, the funding is not guaranteed beyond 1 year. So if they're in this and they got the funding, that $12,000 or that $10,000, and it takes them a year or longer, just because of where we're at with the contract, 1 year contract, the funding may not be guaranteed all the way through. Tier 2, that's the other qualification. Again, that's the $6,000 amount. That's in combined training, supportive services, subsidized employment supports over the course of the 1 calendar year as well. So this is other training in high demand occupations not covered under the TAC programs or the registered apprentice. So it's basically you have Tier 1, kind of the universities, the school systems and apprenticeship, and then Tier 2 is the other ones that wouldn't fall into those TAC programs, if that makes sense. Again, the Tier 2 must lead to an industry recognized credential or license. The funding can be financed through any financial aid offices, scholarships, or other funding source. That's about what I have for HelpLink and HelpLink Plus. Is there questions? Does anybody else in the room have anything to add to it, since it is a new program?
There is a question, Tanner, if nobody there has anything to add to it. The question was, and this is from someone who's not familiar with the HelpLink eligibility criteria, so they're wondering, would students ever be eligible for this, or is it only for 18 and older?
Would youth be eligible for this?
Correct.
Is that your question?
Yes.
Yeah, and it says individuals that are 19 to 64 or 138% below basically the poverty line. So yes, they would be able if they were below that 130%. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. And that was the only question that's come in so far about HelpLink.
Okay, great. I'll give it a minute. So right now we currently have 2 ACA that qualify folks. If they're within, they're on the Medicaid expansion, they're working with DPHS, they send us over a list of individuals that could be eligible for it. A lot of these folks, they don't know what HelpLink is. They don't know really what this HELP Act is since it's so new. And so we work great with them. They take a survey online, we get the information, they never make an appointment. What we like to do is just reach out to them and say, hey, you know, here's a great opportunity for you. This isn't a requirement, but we want you to be aware of what our offices have for you, because it is important for you to understand if you ever want to get in that workforce, if you ever want to potentially, you know, advance in some type of training, we have funding for you that we could help you out with. And so our offices are excellent at contacting these individuals if needed, and just to kind of reassure them that, hey, this is an opportunity for you. It is not required. Let us know what we could do to help you. And we've been hearing some great success stories throughout the state. Again, this is new. We don't have the biggest numbers to show that it is just blown out of the water, but at the same time we're getting there, and with these success stories, with the new legislation coming in, we're excited to report on what we're currently doing and how it's affecting these folks, because this is a huge work, a huge, I can't even think of the right words, a huge area of people that we haven't really worked with a lot within the offices. Some of the folks that we see, maybe they just got off of a job, they were let go from a job in their UI, and we have them coming in, we're working with them. These individuals, necessarily youth, even for that fact, if they're available, we haven't ever seen them, and a lot of them don't even know what a local job service office does or what's available for them. So this is a huge workforce that we haven't been able to see or touch, you know, provide our services to. So we're excited, and it's a great opportunity for not only DLI but the state of Montana. That's it for us. If questions come in afterwards, Kim, we'd be happy to send them all out.
I'll get that link sent on all the adult contract offices. So if anyone's interested in their community who they need to reach for the adult program, they'll be able to see the list with the contact information.
Great, appreciate it, thank you. And we'll get that to you, Kim, and you can forward it to everybody. I think that would be best. So, cool.
Yeah, I'll be sure to do that. And we did have one more question emailed in to me, and this, I'm not sure who this is directed to, maybe all of the presenters, but throughout the presentations, you talked about a bunch of different ways in which students, youth, young adults could access the different services that you offer through your programs. Are there any kinds of services that job service centers could bring into the classroom to assist teachers? Like, could job service staff come in and do presentations, come in and talk about the Montana Career Information System? Anything that, can it ever go into the classroom, or do the students need to be going to the job service center?
A couple different answers. Montana Career Information System is housed out of the Research and Analysis Bureau, which is part of Workforce Services Division. So they're all up here in on the same floor as us, and they have trainers that absolutely go into schools, into the classrooms, whatever. So we could send you the, when Marla sends that link, we can also send the 2 trainers that Research and Analysis has and their contact information. What the job services do in schools, it varies office to office and how many staff they have and what other things they're involved in, but there are definitely instances of job service office classes, job service staff going into junior highs and high schools both to talk about career planning, you know, separate or in conjunction with the MCIS folks, to also talk about, I know in Great Falls, all of the juniors in the entire, at CMR, all get a class on resume writing and cover letter stuff and interviewing skills, and that's presented to every junior in high school in Great Falls, or it was a few years ago. So it varies, but it's something that we would definitely be open to do if anyone had made a request of us.
Great, thank you very much. And we did have another question come in. Could job service possibly present to teachers at the CEC conference in February? Just a thought.
Which conference was that?
CEC, Council on Exceptional Children conference in February.
Yep, we could get the right people there. We sure could. We just spoke at the Jobs for Montana Graduates conference last week, I believe it was, about the same kind of thing, and you know, many teachers were in attendance there, and yeah, we'd be happy to help.
And so who?
Yeah, I think that would.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that would be great if we could reach out to teachers more about what our programs and where we're at and what we could do, because yeah, it's a big shift from school to work, and if we could help individuals in high schools or wherever to understand it, even through the teachers, would be great. But sorry, I interrupted, but go ahead, Kim.
So who would be the individual, for the person who is organizing the CEC conference, who would be the best person on your end for them to contact?
Me, Rhonda Hughesby.
Thank you.
And do you have my contact? You have my contact information, Kim.
I do, yes. And
yeah.
I can share it with the individual who asked the question, if that's okay with you, Rhonda?
Yeah, that's fine. Where is that conference?
I'm not sure. Does anyone in our audience know where CEC is this year? And if so, could you please type it into the chat box? Just a minute for that. Sorry, I kept talking over you, Tanner. It's the joys of technology, isn't it, between phones and computers?
Yes, right? You're fine.
Well, I'm waiting to see if someone knows where CEC is in 2017. I just wanted to say, based on your answers to the last questions about the different ways that job service offices might be able to assist in the work that teachers are doing to prepare students, it sounds like the very best thing to do is to establish those connections and build the relationships with the local job service center. Is that correct?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. And at this point, we don't have any other questions, and I don't see an answer to where CEC is, so I can look that up and get it to you, Rhonda.
Oh, and that's fine. February is a ways off. I was just curious.
There goes an ambulance.
It wasn't on my end this time. Any other out there, or any other comments from any of our presenters?
I would just like to say thank you for having us, and we would like the chance maybe next year to do it again if possible.
I think that would be wonderful. And I did just get a note that the CEC conference, according to the website, is in Missoula in 2017.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So a short survey will appear on your screen just as a reminder as soon as today's webinar ends, and please do take the time to complete that survey. There is a space on the survey that just asks about any other comments that you might have. There's also a question about training ideas for future webinars. And given all of the information that was presented today and all the different programs that have been described, I would really welcome comments from any of you about things that you would like to learn more about with respect to the Job Services Operations Bureau. So if you have, if you heard something today and you think, wow, that program sounds like it could really be a benefit to the population I'm working with, or we really would like to learn more about the Work Opportunity Tax Credit or whatever, please include that on your survey, and I will make sure to share that information with our presenters from today. Our next Pre-Employment Transition Services Technical Assistance webinar is called Pre-ETS Resources Around Interests, Aptitudes, and Career Guidance, and that will take place on September 8th from 10:30 until 12 o'clock Mountain Time. The flyer and registration for that should be going out in the next week or two. And to tie in with something that was talked about today, it sounds like we may have a presenter talk about the Montana Career Information System, or MCIS, on that webinar as one of our presenters. So we're really looking forward to that. A reminder that the recording for today's webinar will be posted on the Montana Vocational Rehabilitation and Blind Services YouTube channel. The website address for that is in your chat box. If you look in your chat box, you should find that. And it takes up to 2 weeks to get that posted. So if you want to share the information with your colleagues or send it out to other people you think would benefit, give it a couple of weeks before you check that link. I really like to thank our presenters today, those who were able to be here and those who weren't but contributed their slides. Rhonda, Maggie, Dave, Kay, Christy, Marla, and Tanner, thank you so much. A wealth of information that you've shared, and I know my brain is just reeling with ideas about how we might all connect and collaborate and assist one another, and I'm sure that the same is true for our audience members. So thank you again, and thanks to all of our participants who took time out on this August afternoon to learn more about the services available through Montana Workforce. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks.